All right, everyone, welcome back to the Mission 300 podcast. Today, we want to internalize this question. Are you a hearer or are you a doer? And our world is full of talking heads, full of people with opinions, but how many people are actually walking out what's true? And so we want to get started with some general things on that topic that everyone's going to agree on in principle. But then as we get a little more specific, I think you're going to find that you get hit with a realization that there's been some ways of thinking that have crept into our culture and into our minds that we don't actually walk this out as much as we think we do. We're going to touch on wisdom, but the Bible does say, do not merely listen to the world and deceive yourselves. Do what it says. Anyone who listens to the word but doesn't do what it says is someone who looks at his face in a mirror and instantly forgets what he looks like. So we're going to dive into that. At the end, we are going to get to this answer of how do we start being a doer. So let's get into it.
It's a funny thing. I had this analogy that I had used before. I want you to imagine I invite you guys are, let's say you love my favorite sport of soccer for you in the US and football for everybody else. And you guys love it. So you guys want to learn how to play, you want to become a participant. So I bring you in, I bring in a coaching team, and I put you in the bleachers of the stadium as I'm going to teach you how to play football. And so each week I invite you in, I have you go sit, I give you a little pamphlet, I give you little pass outs. We even have every once in a while a nice little intermission. I provide coffee for you, and you sit in these stands each week as I teach you how to play soccer or football. And then each week I go and I bring in a better player. I'll bring in one of the top players, and they'll do some drills and they'll do some practice in front of you, and then I send you back home. And then the next week I may bring in a couple like different teams, and they'll play each other, and you watch. How long are you going to be sitting in those stands when you came because you want to learn how to play? I venture to say most of our education on how to do something is someone wanting to share information. But God never did that kind of education. He came so you could go do. He put it on you. So a good coach will get you out. If you've never played, just get you out playing. Make some fun games. So you're playing, you're touching the ball, you're moving around, you're interacting, right? Until a love for it. Then as you get better, you need a more specific coaching to refine areas. But who's the center? If you take a major sports team and you're just looking at general, so don't be too specific here because we can make arguments over this. But in general, why do fans come in to watch a team? Is it to see how the coach is going to design the play? Is it going to see how the manager did the budgets on the backside to better compensate the players? Is it because of the owner that he could put this great thing together? No, they come to watch the players. From a Christian perspective, we're players in the game. But we've made it more about the coach, the management team, the back office, and we've never allowed the team to play. And so we spend our time analyzing and listening to a few key players when we are all designed to be players. And so I want to spend some time flipping the tables on this because we're missing out on the whole essence of how God wants to be a father, the relationship he has with you, that rather than having coaches come in, by the way, the coach is the first one to let go if the team isn't doing well. It's not the players. But man, we cut the players all the time because something's wrong with the players. Well, there's both wrong, but the coach is not the highest paid person on the team. It's usually a key player. I just find it very interesting that the coach is somewhat expendable, but yet super valuable. The coach isn't the center of the attention. The coach isn't the one that's on the screen. The coach isn't, it's the players. And so we need coaches. We need administration. We need ministry. But those offices were designed to support the players, not for the players to support the offices. And so as we're talking this through, that's kind of what I want to get to. And it's why we become more hearers than doers. We've been kind of stripped away that we have the capability to actually go do what we're being taught to do.
Well, and it makes me think of it in a church or a Christian context. So if you were to take, I've got a lot of relatives that are huge football fans, American football, not the rest of the world football. And they'll go to the games, all this stuff. But if you were to ask them, are you a football player? They wouldn't say yes. They'd say, I'm a fan, or I love watching it. I love the sport, but I'm not a player. I'm a fan. And I wonder if you had this moment of honesty with people in a church in a given Sunday, you've got how many people sitting in the congregation that are fans of Christianity, but they're not really players because they don't do any of the things that are being taught. And you can, depending on your experience, maybe that's because the teacher has been terrible at encouraging and equipping them Maybe that's the case. Maybe they just don't really care too much for the doing of Christianity. They just like the warm feeling they get when they sit in that room for an hour to 2 hours a week, and then they feel like they've done something good. So they go on about their day. But I do wonder how many people would be, asking themselves that question. Am I actually a Christian, or am I just a fan of Christianity?
This is such a good point, and I am not going to even call out any observations except, a career in ministry does not mean a channel, a YouTube voice, and being able to opine about the correction and the direction that needs to go in the pursuit of getting more subscribers. It is the least form. I mean, even this podcast, I want you to catch some context, but if you just don't go do things, this is a meaningless waste of time. I want to encourage you to go do things. I want to reinforce what you're trying to do, but at the end of the day, you won't know what I'm talking about unless you're doing it. But we have created a whole culture of professional opiners that sit in the stands and critique how a coach should have called that play, how a player should have done this. This is what should have happened. And they're in a way, they're spiritually obese, sitting in the stands and can't even make it down to the front row, and they're waiting for the hot dog to be passed. But they've never gotten on the field and played. But man, they got a good eye for how it should go. And I just think it's very interesting. That isn't what we're created for. It's not even what we're designed for.
So let me ask you guys this. Do you think that in part could be because we've kind of copied the structure of things culturally? So you have your football industry. You need fans. You need fans to go to the games, to buy the merchandise. You need the fans to do all these things. That's where the revenue is, not counting, revenue from endorsements, all that stuff. But you need the fans there. And so maybe that's kind of been the same model that we've copied, because you need in church, you need fans to come in and watch your sermon. But then at the same time, all I hear is the fans complaining about things, but they still go. They still show up. They still watch the game. They still buy the jersey. They still geek out over the draft pick. And then they complain about it the entire time. And I feel like, at least in a lot of the worlds that I've had conversations with people, that's kind of the same thing. You go, you show up, you give a little bit, but not very much of your time or your money. And then you complain about the things you don't like, and you go back next week. So you're really operating as just a fan of things.
It's interesting too, because when you talk about the similarities, I've never been that much into watching sports, but when I hear people who are really into sports, extensively, all they do, they're catching and I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with it, but their language that they use is they'll be like, we did so good this Sunday, we something, something. And they're saying we as if they're on the football team actually doing something, or they're on the field giving coaching advice. He's like, yeah. And I always kind of laugh to myself when I hear it, but then I'm like, oh man, what was going on church this Sunday where I was like, we did this and I had absolutely no participation. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing, right? Because you're like, well, I'm a part of this. I've got the jersey, I've got the church t-shirt, the bumper sticker, I've got the bumper sticker. This is me calling myself out. This is my own hypocrisy. And it's funny because I'll laugh at that when I hear a sports fan do it, but then I'll do the same thing when it comes to church. And I think there is something to that where maybe that's where young men are kind of missing it, because maybe young men don't want to sit in the stands and watch even if you watch sports, if you really love sports, you're going to go play in a minor league somewhere in your town, or a lot of hockey fans up north, I know they have their own little mini hockey league, even basketball, Sunday basketball games. And I almost think maybe that's one aspect of sports that we could copy, instead of just the saying we as a fans thing.
Like people
Because there
actually
is a
doing
lot
things.
of parallels. Yeah, actually doing stuff.
I wonder if part of the problem is we've started to look at Christianity, church, in the same category as entertainment and amenities like sports. Because you don't need sports. You don't do that at your day job. You absolutely don't operate the same way at your day job. You won't have one very long. If you're running a business, or even if you're just an hourly employee, you're not going to operate the same as you do when you're a fan of a sport. There's a different understanding that you have. And so we were talking about the fear of God a little bit earlier today. And I wonder if that's slipped a bit, because we will look at our Christian life as an amenity or as entertainment or as a add-on to something else. And so then we'll treat Sundays, Mondays, Tuesdays, we'll treat all these things the same as we do our other entertainment and our other amenities. because we actually don't understand the depth of what it is.
Yeah, and this is for sure. And in this conversation, I don't want the, I was talking about the church. I don't want it to go away. I like it that you can come and hear someone speak that put time, that developed a skill to communicate and has spent specific time on a topic line to speak. So this isn't a conversation of get rid of that. It's not the end all. It's a part of the journey. It's if like you're saying, like
Yeah.
we do so much football here where I'm at, and we use groups for all of our mentorship programs. We use teams, we use all of that because it gets them active, but they all still want to go watch the big game, whether it's from a world perspective, is Manchester United playing Liverpool. They'll all go watch the game. It matters to them who's playing. Why? Because now they're looking up to those stars, but then they come and play and try to do it. Now, are they close? No, but they're mentally participating, and then they have like heroes that they look up to keep emulating that. And I think there's a picture in that. But here's the deal. They could be any one of those stars if they're willing to put the time in and the work. And you can make an argument only a percentage. This is true. But I like from a running perspective, like you used to have, hey, if you're in the Olympics, the gold medalist, but now you have a world that's changed. You have, like we had Mark Dowdle on. They're creating new races. They're just creating competitions that if there isn't a race that fits them, they're creating races that fit them and then inviting other people into it. And it's in a way, the running and ultra industry has actually done this from the reverse. They take normal people that want to be active in running and they add challenges that pull them deeper into it, that you can compete. Maybe you're good at the distance. Maybe you're good in the heat. Maybe you're good in the cold. And they just create new competitions that fit where their bent is. They're still competing. There's still going to be greater ones, but it just opened the door versus one venue that you can actually compete in, the Olympics. Obviously there's more than that, but that's a very refined style of running versus the guy that doesn't have a team, doesn't have coaches, but he can endure for hours. Oh, let's run a backyard, right? Or some underground tunnels or running up the stairs they just create races. And it isn't even about getting the prize or winning. It's about competing with each other, seeing what they're capable of. And I think Christianity has much more to relate to that from a practical view than there's one venue that if you hit this venue, now you're something. And it's just not true.
Yeah. I think I've been watching the running thing. I think that's one of the best parallels for I don't know. And I am cautious because I don't want to criticize or anything because I don't know what I'm doing differently. But it's how could because we take things from culture, right? And we put it in Christianity. So maybe this is still the wrong way to do it. But I look at running. People are starting their own run clubs. They're hey, Saturday mornings, we're going to go meet and we're going to go run whatever pace. There's even groups that are hey, we're all slow runners. We're all going to run together so you can still have a community to go run with. Or Mark, he's challenging people online. Hey, don't run inside during the cold. Get out there. And people aren't just listening to him because he's saying a good idea, communicating this great motivation. They're okay, we're going to go do that. We just heard your message and now we're going to go out and do it. And that's where I've been questioning myself, how can Christians or the church replicate that and take that where it's challenges people to bring them into something that they have to be challenged. They're doing it with other people. And maybe that's through certain activities or something, but I'm more just spitballing here because I actually don't have necessarily a good idea. I've just been watching the running thing, but going and filming Mark and everything was just really eye-opening too, to what kind of community that is being built through that, and that it's actually causing people to go do something. It's not just a nice word, nice community word. Anybody can build a community around something. Can you build a group of men that will go do something? Mark doing the run and plunge thing. And I wish Tommy was on tonight because he's been telling us some great stuff that he's doing. But even he went and did the run and plunge with Mark, where you go run and jump in the water. And now Tommy's going and doing his own thing.
Yeah.
And he's being active. He's creating his own group of guys. It is the coolest thing to watch. And I'm man, if we could just do that, that would be awesome. I think running is the perfect parallel. It's very even more recently than any other sport, running has kind of become this weird thing for young men to be I'm going to go run 50 miles. Like people call it like the Goggins effect. And it really is more about this doing thing than just because there's so much running documentaries and messages about running and information about running. You could spend the rest of your life, like we've been saying, sitting on the sideline, watching and learning running. But you can also go outside and run a mile tomorrow morning. And like, there's nothing holding you back from doing that. And so it is interesting, this concept of the doing and the wisdom to go do it and that aspect instead of just being a fan on the sidelines. Like, I would not be like, if Mark went and ran a race and I watched him, I wouldn't be like, we did really good on that race, Mark. Like, that would be insanity to say because I didn't do anything. I just participated in watching. And so I don't know if you guys have any ideas around that because I'm just spitballing
Well,
here.
I think you already touched on it there, Caleb. It's just doing something, because when some people hear that are kind of, maybe it's taking a shot at people who are fans of Christianity or fans of football and not actually doing anything. Some will respond, well, what do you think? Everyone needs to be Billy Graham and going to preach to like millions of people. Well, no. But how about you just admit to one person you know that you actually believe the word of God? How about you start there? Just admit to one coworker that you believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God and see what happens from there. Like, the doing can be really small. And Brian, we've had so much stuff with Mission 300. I'm hoping that you have some examples of stuff we've done over there, that because that stuff is exactly the kind of practicality that we're talking about here. And you've been doing it for 50 plus years now over in time. Okay, that was a terrible joke.
Yeah.
Cut the joke
Didn't
out.
do it a long time. You said something really good. And let me just transition over into this. But the comparison is, you know what running did is when you hear, like, whether it's a Cameron Haynes, a Mark Dowdle, you just, like, it's Mark Fitzgerald, they're saying, go run, just go run. Everyone go run. And then they're having people like the people we like to listen to. So let's just use a Goggins, who kind of inspired. How did he get you to hear him do it? Well, he went and ran. You're inspired by him because he does the thing that he's saying. And when he does it, he's saying, I was this, I became this. This is what I did. You go try it. Now, is there going to be differences for each person? Yep. But you tried it. You weren't trying it because he became an expert, got his degree, and became super influential that he could tell you your answer to life is to go run, go do something hard. And you're sitting there at chewing on your pastries, trying to tell me to go run, but you don't look like you've run a day in your life. Have you ever had to do this? We want to see the scars. We want to see, what did you walk through? How did you do it? Are you still in the fight? You know what made the Apostle Paul so influential? He was experiencing harder things than they were. I do this for your glory. I'm experiencing this suffering for your victory. Like, he would push himself to the hardest place by choice, because he chose to bring the gospel for their benefit. How do you not listen to him? And even people rejected him, but he was a doer. He did what he said he was going to do. And in running in this whole world, you can't have a voice unless you can't talk about an ultra unless you run an ultra, right? In Christianity, I can talk about ultras all day long, spiritually speaking, and never have to actually ever do one, as long as I get enough people listening, they like who I am, and I can actually be an expert, to use the analogy, I can be an expert on long distance running, but now I'm going to be spending my time talking about sprinting, but I never sprint. So I would bring someone else in who knows sprinting to talk about sprinting. No, because I know running, I'm going to be an expert on nutrition. I'm going to be an expert on sprinting. I'm going to be an expert on walking. I'm going to be an expert on powerlifting. I'm going to be an expert. We don't step out of our expertise. We become a big general something. And as long as people feel good and come to the audience, and that isn't, if you're going to be a focused missional, like you're bringing a theme to your ministry, you got to be an expert in it. But now let's step back. What if you have people that learn how to, like, you're hosting events and all these people are showing up for a run, and you're really good at hospitality. You just don't like to run, but you love the community. Man, there's a place for that, even in Christianity. So I'm keeping using the same metaphor. Hey, can you help us put up the service huts so when the guys come through on the run, they can get their water, they can get taken care of. We could put a med station in. Can we do that? Now, let me ask you a question. Are those stations the focus of the race? No. Are they critical to the race? Yeah. In fact, they save people's lives because they have those stations along the route. They're lifesavers, but they're not They're not center to the race. That's how, and then you have the coach that prep the run. Now, does that coach get to talk to the athlete really during the run? No, it's before the run. Now they're releasing you into the run. Now you're on your own. Like even coaching soccer for all the years, once the game starts, you can give adjustments the best you can through some hand signals or telling a player, I'm going to sub you in. Can you bring this formation? But bottom line is the players are running the game once it gets going. So this is the picture that I think if we got masters at lifting people into their roles and launching them, man, can you imagine the health? We wouldn't even have all the controversy. We would be launching people. I wouldn't even have to tell you how to think, how to vote, how to make a decision, because you would be grounded and you'd be able to do those things.
Yeah, it's so spot on. And especially there is something funny that happened with Mark. And when you were talking about when you could talk, like if you're an endurance runner, you could talk about sprinting and people wouldn't take you seriously because they would be like, you're a sprinter. You're not an endurance runner, or vice versa. There was one guy who kind of said, I think I could set the world record in the endurance backyard ultra, which is what Mark specializes in. Mark saw that on social media, and this guy has like the world record for speed of like the 50K. So he's a fast ultra marathoner. He's sponsored by like Adidas. So Mark was like, hey, let's find a company to sponsor like $50,000 and we go one-on-one until one of us wins. And the guy kind of backed out, and Mark didn't blame him or anything. Like he has an actual career of other things, which ironically is not the endurance thing that he said he could think to set the world record on. But this guy got ripped apart on social media in the comments because everybody was like, dude, you think you know what you're talking about. This is a completely different sport, even though it's running versus the endurance thing. And I was watching that, kind of laughing at it a little bit because I've interacted with Mark and he does it in good-hearted fun. But I think it's also important to look at that in an introspective way, because if you tell yourself like, hey, I'm going to church on Sunday, I'm listening to the message, I'm doing all these things where I'm taking in all the information, it would be like telling yourself, if you watch the linebackers play in the NFL enough, that, hey, I could probably get on the field and do just as well. Or if I were the quarterback, man, I would do this and then when life hits you, the confidence that it will rip out of you because you haven't built up to that. And I've done that in my life before. I guess that's why I wanted to bring it up, is because you can kind of think, man, I have the willpower to do that. I don't know why people, like when I first went and did the Appalachian Trail, I really thought like, it's just weak-minded people who don't finish this thing. And then I got into it and I went, I'm the very thing that I've accused other people of. What a hypocrite. And it was worse than even like it was so bad. And so I think it's really important to bring up what you said, Brian, about like even in the area of expertise, you kind of have to find that for yourself as well to build the confidence and evidence that you are that thing. Like, I think that's why the running thing is attractive, because everybody can kind of be like, yeah, I'm a fit young guy. And then the young guy goes out and it destroys him and humbles him. Even this last race Mark did, he said, that's why I went back, because it humbled me so badly the first time and crushed me. It changed me and made me a different person. So I have to go do it again to make sure I am that different person, was essentially the thing. So he had to return to that. And I think that's really big on the, not even for other people speaking to it, but building the evidence for yourself by doing the thing. And that's what gives you identity. Like, that's why Mark said he did it, to find out who he is, because you have to go do these things to build evidence for yourself that it's true. So I think even young Christian men in church or myself, like, you can hear the good message all day, but if you don't go do anything with it or study the word yourself or practice it out, like, I don't even know what it means necessarily if you don't do something with it. Like, what is belief even, I would ask, if it's not some form of action?
So let me ask you guys, do you think this is kind of a good example of getting practical with this, or is this off the mark a bit? So would you say someone who is commenting online all day about politics, but has never sat down with their school board or their city council to discuss things, is that kind of a problem? Where you have information, great. You have all the information. You're talking about it here and there, but are you actually doing anything in the realm that you can? Or are you just talking?
Yeah, because there's factors in all of this. It's not even so much about talking. It's your attitude about it. It's your your skill that you've developed in or communicating. It's your people skills. There's so many factors of why things don't work that if we don't do something, you don't get beyond that. Like the first time you ever go run, it's going to hurt. And if you just base your opinions on that, like, well, I went out and ran and my next day, my calves hurt, my knee hurt, my hip hurt. And you have all these reasons why it happened. Well, part of it's just because you haven't done it. But if you keep doing it, you work through all of that, and then you realize what the bigger issue was. I realized I have a little bit wider stance, so I adjusted my shoe, and this helped. The same is true with what you just said. You talk about politics. This is what should be said. This is how it should be done. But you have hundreds of different flavors of people and interactions, and you could have a government worker that's doing a bad policy, and deep down, they've been wanting to change for a while, but they don't know how to shift that gear, and you could come in and help that process. Sometimes you need to speak to it. We make it all too combative. And the reason is because we're only listening to one voice of bringing change. We're only listening to one aspect. Even the Bible had 5 offices. You had the apostle, the prophet, the evangelist, the teacher, the pastor. 5 different offices, 5 different ways. Then there was gifts. There was gifts of government. There was gifts of hospitality. There was gifts of different people have bents towards different ways of handling things. And if we don't tap into the whole picture, you can't solve problems. To one person, a full confrontation will change their heart. To another person, you could love them in a way that they don't even know that they just wanted to be valued. And all of a sudden you value them and they start coming to their own decision. You don't know what triggers, and some people just are never going to change. So don't take the battle on differently. Like there's so many factors, but you don't know these factors till you go into the battle. But if you take and never go, you'll immediately say, well, they're just bad. Well, no, maybe you're just horrible at talking to people. Maybe you're perceived as just a rude person. Maybe you need to work on your people skills. You don't love people. I'm giving so many examples, but you don't discover that till you actually go do it and have to be humbled and face yourself. Now you can speak to it. Now you can walk through it. Now you can better communicate, because at the end of the day, we want wins for everybody. We're not going to get them, but that's kind of more of the bigger goal. Paul said, pursue peace with all men if possible. So we're not looking for a war per se, even though you're in one, right? I like this thing that talked about, I'd shared with you earlier about talent is overrated. And part of this whole picture is because we believe certain people have certain talents and skills. And so we kind of over time, like, I'm called to be this thing. So I speak from this platform because I'm called to be this thing, right? Keep in mind, King Saul was called to be a king, but he had to be removed because he was a horrible king. He blew it, right? So you have to put David now in. Even God rejected Saul. There's deliberate practice that goes in with your calling. So you may have a bent towards, Jason, you have a bent towards music, but it's not like you are birthed with something so unique. But there's a bent there, but you still have to practice. You still have to put time in. You still have to forge it. You still have to work it. Your bent keeps you in it, right? I'd venture to say it keeps you in it so you could do the practice necessary to become in the skill that you are. Caleb, you have a bent towards video, but you still have to go learn it. You still have to go practice it. You still have to go study it. You're still in the process of bringing it out, right? You have a bent towards it. But that didn't make you a videographer. That just gave you the endurance to stay at it. So we have these giftings and ways we do things, but we have to develop and be deliberate about those skills. You can't do that unless you're doing it. We have to do. So in James, it says, be doer of the word and not a hearer only. That word doer actually means be a poet. Take what you've learned, let it become part of your DNA, that when you speak it, it becomes yours. Your flavor's on it. Your ideas are on it. That's being a doer.
It makes me think back in high school, I realized I had a bent towards music. And I remember at the same time as I was realizing that, understanding that that's great. If you don't work at it, it literally means nothing. And so you have to dedicate yourself to that work. But it's also interesting that in our world, like, I've gotten compliments from people saying, you're such a talented musician. Not once has someone said, you must have worked so hard and practiced your skill so hard to get to where you are now. People don't really think of it that way. I'm not blaming anyone necessarily. It's just how we think of it. We think, wow, you're so talented. You were born with this gift. And sure, there's some truth to that, I'm sure, but we don't really think about it in terms of, I can't imagine how many hours you must have spent practicing this to get to where you are now.
I think it is so funny because I heavily relate to that as well, Jason, because I'll have people who want to get into video and they'll be like, man, if I could just be talented as you. And I was like, oh, you can. Are you just going to watch like hundreds of hours of YouTube video tutorials on every little aspect of editing? Are you going to then go do it in this program? And I've even had like, it applies to everything, this idea of talent. I've had this conversation with my sisters, and my younger sisters are like in college or they're just starting their jobs, and they're really smart. They are. But my sisters, each of them have had this separate conversation with me where they've kind of been, while they were in college, were like, I think I thought I was smarter than I was because I just believed I was talented because we were kind of like in a smaller community in town growing up. And she was like, I think it's just that I have to work harder and my intelligence is not going to help me in college. And I was like, yeah, I figured that. I mean, I didn't go to college, but I figured out for life too, is like your talent really isn't going to do it for you. In fact, if you believe in your talent so much that you do nothing, your talent will probably just destroy you. Like you can see it happen with anybody that they just rely on their talent. And then when it comes to do hard work, like it's probably one in a gazillion, bazillion. I don't even know if it's possible for somebody to achieve greatness just on talent alone. I think everybody has an unseen hard work ethic who is great. Like you're saying, Jason, with the
Oh
music
yeah.
thing.
I think that's one of the few, I'm going to be a little mean here, but that's one of the few redeeming moments of going to college in my experience was that I got to that point as an incoming freshman and I knew my natural skill and I had impressed so many people beforehand and get into this room and there's 50 other freshmen here, like they're all that. And that's just the freshmen. That's not the people that have been here 1, 2, 3, 4 years actually working at it. Maybe I better do something. And it was funny. I talked to a buddy on my floor in college who was on the baseball team, and I asked him who's the best pitcher on the team, and he said, "Well, if we all had equal time to practice, then I would be." And I remember thinking that wasn't my question. My question isn't who could be the best if you actually put the time into it, because he was kind of just trying to build himself up a little. Well, if I had time to practice like these guys do, I could be just as good as they are. Like, well, you're not for whatever reason. You're not that. So who's actually putting in the work? It was just really interesting to see that.
I don't want to stop it. I'll have to stop and look this up, but I think it was King David's first general. He had to go take this hill and this army regiment, and the first person to go up and take it would become his commanding officer. I think it's Uriah. No, it's not Uriah. I can't remember his name. So he goes up and does it, and he becomes the commanding officer. I thought it was interesting. He didn't just look around and go, who's been competent with me so far? That's part of it. Who's deserving of it? It's like, no, the one who actually goes and does the thing I'm asking him to go do, I will make him the leader of it. And I think there's just something that if we remove the idea that there's some elite group that is really good at something and we're not, and we can never be there, you'll quit just following messages. You'll start looking for people that empower and strengthen you and educate you. And you need coaches. You need people that have been there before. But they're helping you become what you are. They see what you are and they're helping you become what you are. That their greatest strength is when you're higher than them, right? That should be the picture of what we're looking to, not just keep listening and you get a new word. I mean, I'm all for so many things that I'm talking about, but there just becomes a weirdness when you never do the one thing that's been asked. So let me just give you an example. The Bible says, do not fear what? The most commanded comment throughout the scripture is do not fear. Don't be anxious. Don't be fearful. Don't be dismayed. I'm with you. 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 Don't be afraid. I'm with you. Don't be afraid. I'm with you. Let's just start right there. If fear is still, and when I talk about fear, I'm talking about what the fear of what man could do to you. You're obviously not fearing God, but you're fearing what man can do to you. So you don't act because you don't believe God's with you. Or you don't believe God's greater than what you're going against. If you will take time and just start doing that one thing in small little areas, I'm not going to fear what man thinks of me. I'm not going to fear what man thinks of me. I'm not going to fear what man thinks of me. God, what do you want me to do? I'm going to do that. I'm not going to fear what man thinks of me. You started mastering that in little areas. Do you realize that wisdom The secret to all of God's wisdom is the fear of God and knowing him. That's the secret to all wisdom. Fear God and understand the Holy One. You have all understanding and all wisdom. If you had all understanding and all wisdom, what couldn't you do in life? Then you wouldn't be like James says, your wisdom is from man and it's filled with hypocrisy. You say this great wise thing over here, but you're contradicting yourself over here, right? Isn't that pretty much most of the wisdom we hear? It's like, well, you're telling me to do this. Why are you doing this? Like, it's so God's wisdom isn't contradictory, but it's based in those two elements. What if that's all you mastered for the next 10 years? How do I walk and be fearless towards man and confident towards you? Fearless towards man, confident towards you. Fearless towards man, confident towards you. You did that. You just practiced it. Every step you did, hey, am I walking in the fear of man or am I walking in the fear of God? And you start changing that and you develop that. You develop that. It's in you. It's in you. It's a gift. It's been given to us. That's why he tells us to do it. You need an annex or a pill. You don't need something else. You don't need to be anxious. Why? If you're anxious, you don't believe God's with you. You don't believe he's on your side. You don't believe he can help. You don't believe he exists. Of course you're anxious. You're on your own. But once that becomes becoming solid, what happens? That's doing. If you didn't know any other thing and that's all you did, your life would radically change. It would change the world. It would change people around you. It would radically change with just that one simple doing.
I think that is huge because there are a couple people I have in mind who, when I think about, man, they're doing all these great things, blah, 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 you can point it all back to one thing, which is the fear of God or the fear of the Lord. And everything in their life like falls under that. Like, it's not like, man, they have a really good work ethic, they're working really hard, and then, they have other stuff that's a total mess. Like, the people who I look up to the most are the ones where you can see it falling, that like everything in their life just naturally falls under that. And I think about like stuff in my life that I'm like, man, I need to get better at doing this or be more disciplined in this area. I'm like, if I truly feared God in that aspect of my life, or really in every aspect, everything would just fall under it naturally and just follow that. Like, you almost wouldn't even have to be I think it would all follow it. It's like saying yes to one thing instead of like, no, I'm not going to do this, I'm going to do this instead. Like, all this back and forth. There doesn't have to be back and forth if you're just yes on one thing. Like, for Mark, I know we are going to wear out the example of Mark, but his one thing is like, he's like, no matter what, I run. Like, for 1 year, he ran the mile of the day that it was that year. And he was like, no matter what, I run. And he had like a wedding on the 25th of the month. So he ran like 13 miles in the morning. And then after the wedding was over that evening, he ran another 20 or 12 miles. Christmas Day, he's running 25 miles. And I think it's like, that's an example, like a very small, reduced example of, to me, what the fear of the Lord looks like in somebody's life, because everything else falls under that thing where it's just like, well, I'm going after this, so nothing else matters. How I feel, all these different aspects, there's only one thing.
So when you just said that, the how I feel aspect, I do wonder if there's those two things then that get in the way for people. One, you're fearing man more than you're fearing God. And so that changes your actions. That changes even how you think about things and your mindset. Or maybe you're bringing yourself up so high that your feelings outweigh what God commands you to do, because God is forgiving and gracious. And I don't feel like doing this right now, or I'm too worried to do this right now, or I don't have the time to do this right now. And God is patient and gracious. So it's fine that I put it off. And maybe that's a lot worse of a state of mind than we realize,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think even on this idea, the Bible's so simple. We have so much information about it. And I will tell you an easy way. Some people wonder, well, is it all true? What about this translation? What about that translation? We can spend all day opining with the fans in the crowd that aren't on the field doing something of which one is actually doing it. My question is, Paul says, I didn't come with words of man's wisdom, but with the power of God. Which ones brings power into your life? Are you experiencing God? Are you in relationship with him? Is he becoming more real, more tangible, more palatable, more present, or more obscure, farther away, more distant? Now I just got head knowledge. And I'm going to coin this term. It's basically we spend a lot of our time doing theological porn, and it stimulates, it makes us feel good, but it produces nothing.
Wow.
And you have 9 other people that are having a different opinion. Now, which one do you follow? Well, I trust this guy. I trust this guy. Believe they all have something, but we have the one that can help us guide us through. We still need each other. We're not smarter than them, but they could be off on things. I don't trust my salvation. If Caleb says, do this, then you'll go to heaven. I can't get to heaven and say, well, Caleb said, do this. I need to know. I need to know. I need to know. And you do that by doing. The other point of this is if God says something, start doing it. And then if it doesn't work out, try it again. And if it doesn't work, try it again till you start understanding going, okay, because part of things not working, like if you've never driven a car before ever and I hand you the keys, said, go start it, you're going to go look at it and not know where the key goes if you've never seen where it goes, right? You're going to stand and say, it doesn't work. Get in the car seat, turn the thing. Okay, you get the car started. Now drive it. Well, I don't know how to drive it. Well, we don't abandon it because you're ignorant of how the thing works. You keep learning. You keep doing. You keep doing. And pretty soon you start getting a vocabulary of what works in this relationship, just like the running, of where you're skilled, where you're not, where you can push. Backdrop of success with God starts happening. And the more you start doing little things, you'll start believing the Bible actually just a little bit more. You'll start believing he actually does what he says he's going to do. Wow, I can actually be what he says I can be. It doesn't happen from a conference. It doesn't happen because someone believed for something great and a miracle happened. Oh, all those miracles should happen for me. Well, they're not being withheld from you, but you may have to get in and work with it and understand. What you're not hearing is some people had a lot of years that they worked on these things, that it's normal for them. Others are just starting. So we help them out, but it becomes real. And once God and the Bible and his presence become real to you, once it becomes palatable, no one will take it away. You won't convince me what's not true in the Bible. You can't do it because I've done it too much. I've seen it. It works. His relationship works. It's functional.
So one verse that my dad would always tell me as a kid was 2 Timothy 3. And it starts off saying, this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come, and goes through these different things of like these wicked men and everything like that. But there's a part of the verse where it says having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof, from such turn away. And that's always stuck out to me because my dad has always been like, you can have a form of godliness, but it can have no power in your life. Like you can have this godliness that you do the right thing in this appearance. And I think that's another aspect of like what you were saying, Brian, the fear of man versus the fear of God. So that verse has always stuck out. Like what you were just talking about, that verse is what comes to mind. It's like, do I want to have this form of godliness, or do I want to have the truth within me, which actually has the power to change my life and really move me in a different direction towards God, to where at the end of my life, I'll look back and go, not that I looked good doing the right things, but there was actually a power in my life that changed me more than just some appearance of godliness. And it is interesting because it says a form of godliness. Like it is some form that can appear godly. Like it's not saying, oh, a deceptive evil that pretends to be good. It's like a form of godliness, but without the power of it. And it's like, but without the power, turn away from such things or such men who have that. And so in my life, I've been like, man, what is a form of godliness I have that's not changing my life? Because that's not really God then. That's just a good thing. Like it's not, if it doesn't have power to change you, it's not really God. It's just a good appearance of thing. Like you can go to church. I mean, this is like the classic age-old trope, right? You can go to church every Sunday, but then it not change you at all. Like that's a form of godliness. That doesn't change you. And this is not a Bible quote, but still one of my favorite quotes of all time as well is from Kingdom of Heaven, when I forgot the king's name, but he's talking to the knight who he wants to like kind of lead the army, and they're playing chess, and he's like, a king may move a man, a father may claim a son, but remember that even when those who move you be kings or men of power, your soul is in your keeping alone. And that propels him to move on in this way where he's like, I don't care what all these more knights are saying. The king even tells him, if I tell you to do something and it's wrong, you can't listen to me because the responsibility of your soul is still on yourself. And so it's all these ideas of like the fear of man, it will cost you even more than just not doing the right thing in the moment. It will cost you your soul and your life. And I mean, I feel that when I do act on the fear of man, I like feel something cringe where it's like, that is crushing a part of me. And I can just, and you have to go more than feeling, obviously, as well, because sometimes the fear of man can feel better than the fear of God in the moment. But I think that's huge of whichever one you act on is also like in your responsibility alone. It doesn't matter how many good messages you listen to. It doesn't matter how much I listen to Mark Dowdle talk about running to the point where he's like on repeat and editing. If I don't go run, what do I know about it? Like, what do I know about it? I can memorize his words, and it can even appear like I know about running because I know every right sentence to say. But it's a form of godliness with no power, because if I'm not running, then then I don't really know. It's like knowing versus being. Like I think that's huge. And all those quotes in the Bible verse, that form of godliness, that is a cautionary tale for myself.
So this is interesting. In Mark 4:24 and 25, it says, he said to them, referring to Jesus, pay attention to what you hear. With the measure you use, it will be measured to you, and still more will be added to you. For the one who has, more will be given, and from the one who has not, even that which he has will be taken away. It's the words that we use. And by the way, I mean, we can do a whole podcast on everything is built on words. The world was created by words. Jesus is known as the Word made flesh. We live on words. And the other one is James says, don't be deceived, or it says, be a doer of the word, not a hearer only, deceiving yourself. We become deceived and tricked and think we know something when we don't do what he said. So my simple recommendation from all this, because this is a huge topic, I'd love to hear more from you guys out there, and we've covered a lot of things. I would simply break it down to this. Practice letting God be strong and true and letting him father you, and fear him. For those who've never done that, just start. See what happens. And it'll be hard at first because it's going to be different than what you know, but watch what happens. Deal with the fear of man no matter what. Don't let the fear of man drive your decisions. You're going to have to face it. You're going to have to learn to deal with it. Be deliberate of practicing not walking in the fear of man. And the final thing is, we've always talked about this habit of being deliberate of meditating the word. Take a scripture. It's not about memorizing it. It's not about quoting it. It's not about knowing it in 19 translations. I mean, that's important. By the way, I do that, but it's not for this reason. Meditate on, like, I want that in my heart. How do I do it? How do I walk in it? How do it become me? And let it stew on the inside of you. It will start growing. It will actually do the work for you. It will actually do the work for you. It will change you. So let it change you so you could go do it. And take heed what you hear. Take it with a grain of salt. Everything. Be eager to listen, go study it out, and slow to respond. But when you respond, stick to it and keep your word, and do it and do it and do it, and watch what begins to happen.
Any final thoughts, Caleb?
But the doing part is so key, because you can look at, like, I can look at people that I look up to and go like, well, I'm never going to get there. I don't have that. And Mark said, it goes back to this talent thing. He's like, there's nothing special about me. I just do it every day and work hard every day. And I think it's like, man, if you can take those little steps every day, where would you be in a year? Like, can you have the vision for 5 years of committing to something? Because there is no reward even in talent, I would say. Talent will give you nothing, because it's like the parable of the talents, actually. Maybe go read that as well, because the master comes back and there's ones who had less, but they did much with it. And those are the ones who are rewarded. And I'm like, there's talents in my life. I could sit here and do nothing with them. So I think it's, without rambling, it's just commit to that little thing every day and say like, okay, what would change in 3 months if I did this every day? If you read your Bible a little bit every day for 3 months instead of one big time in the middle of 3 months, because you're like, oh, I need to catch up on all this Bible reading, that would immensely change you compared to if you read twice as much in one day over the course of the 3 months. If you read one verse every day, it's like that perspective of the small little thing every day, of putting that in, that is what gets you to something like, okay, I'm running 100 miles now. Okay, I've got a whole chapter of the Bible memorized. you can't do that in like 1 or 2 days with a lot of talent. You can't even do that in a month, dare I say, with a lot of talent. Like it is what can happen in a year or 5 years. That's been something that I've been having to like really look at myself at for as well. So that would be my.
Well, I'll leave you guys with this. When it comes to not fearing the voice of man over the voice of God, one really simple way to practice that helped me, and it's so simple, but I think honestly a lot of people need to start here, is just find something of a preference that you have, whether it's food or beverage or cars or style of music that you have a preference on that is opposite to the majority of people around you, and just bring that up and just sit there and be okay with it. For me, years ago, it was music. I actually started to, I was in this group of friends. We all hated country music. It was popular to hate it at the time. It is what it is. I started to appreciate certain aspects of country music, and I just brought that up one day. And I just kind of let it sit there and felt all the backlash from it. And I just kind of basked in it for a little bit. And I know it sounds so stupid, but that helps build resilience against, I actually don't have to change my preferences or what I know is right because of how many people around me are yelling the opposite. So we appreciate you guys being here. Until next time, keep the faith, stay in the fight.